Hello, stellar people, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Trey, and today we'll continue day 3 of a 2-week boot camp. So we're number 3 out of 10, and let's look at the schedule first off. And here we are on Wednesday, the 22nd, and today we're going to be doing shapes, simple and complex, heads and hands, mannequin, and we're going to overlay that with anatomy study while also putting some simple shapes on it. So let's get started. So first we start off with shapes, and let's get to simple shapes. And here we have the circle, the square, the rectangle, and a triangle. And those are the basic building blocks of more complex shapes. They say if you can draw these shapes and morph them and twist them and combine them in various ways, you can make just about anything. So we make a new layer and then hit the B. I'm working in Photoshop right now. Hit the B for the brush tool. And let's go. Drawing circles. Janky circles, but circles nonetheless. And again, it's not about being perfect. It's about putting the reps in. Because how do we get better at art? By practicing and practicing some more. And then at a certain point, you'll get it. It'll all click. But this is always good to go back to. This is like the minimum for me whenever I've been away and I'm thinking, I used to draw well, but now I'm a little bit off and shaky. I come back to this to give myself a refresher. So, final 2 triangles. And those are simple shapes. Now let's go to some 3D shapes. And again, new layer, B for the brush tool, and we're working on these more complex shapes. And complex because there's a bit of 3D to them, right? We're representing 3D objects on a 2-dimensional flat plane, which is a piece of paper or a computer program or whatnot. Now there are 3D programs that one can use like Blender and whatnot, and they're all pretty cool. But I've always been drawn to having hand skills. Although I wanna practice with some Blender one of these days. So cubes. And cubes are a great building block for, say, buildings, if you put windows on it. And it's a stable and secure shape. And now let's do cylinders. And cylinders are great for like silos or various parts of the body, like limbs. I usually use cylinders. But this is just, we're exercising our minds and our hands. And that's what it's all about. A pyramid and a cone. All right. Oh, and the sphere. Wow, that was bad. Let's try that again. A sphere. Not quite better, but hey. All right. This would be the shadow. This would be the highlight. And then there would be an area of darkness. The light's hitting, it diffuses. And then there's a shadow area. And it casts a shadow. So those are the 3D shapes. And next up, let's go to some heads and hands. So this is the basics of a head. This is my skeleton skull. I call Horatio. And this is a wireframe of the basics of a a head. And I usually start with the circle and then extend that circle out to make an oval shape. And then the basic landmarks are the hairline at the top, the brow ridge, which is where your eyebrows would sit, your eye line, which is in your skull. This is the eye line. The nose line, which is at the bottom of the nose, and the mouth line, which covers the teeth. And the basics are the eye line is just above the middle, but around the middle. And then between the eye line and the chin is the nose line. And between the nose line and the chin is the mouth line. And that's some basic measurements. Everybody's different, and there's, some variance that if you look at anybody, you'll go, okay, that person doesn't look like that person. And there's little tweaks to everybody's head. And that's what makes this interesting. So let's do a skull. So last time we did this one, which is a 3/4 turn to the screen right. So let's do the other way. Screen left, 3/4 turn. So make a new layer. And I kind of like that orange. So let's take it orange. B for the brush tool. It's more like a mustard, but. So first we have that larger circle, which simulates the dome part of your skull. All right, this is what would house your brain mostly. But your eyes also and your nose cavity is all within this circle shape. We extend that out down to the chin, go across and upwards for the mandible. Would help if we had this center line, which covers the nose, right, downward. And then that side plane, which goes up and around the zygomatic arch that houses your eyeball and down towards your chin. And a side plane helps with distinguishing where light is hitting. Because if it's hitting from the front, the sides would be in shadow and the back would be the darkest area. So dimensionality in our shapes. So we have the hairline at the top. We have the eyebrow ridge, which is where your eyebrows are. Your eye line, your nose line, which is at the bottom of your nose. And your mouth line. And that is the basics. Right? And it gets easier and easier the more you do this type of thing. And we're just doing it quick, fast. It's nothing too strenuous. Now let's go to a real head, my head. So let's do that same turn. So 3/4 to the screen left. Let's knock this back. V4 for 40% opacity. B for the brush tool. Again, the circle for the major part of your skull. Your cranium. And we extend this down towards the chin. And we come down, across, and then for the mandible, we have the center line, which goes down the middle of the nose, just about. And we have the side plane, which goes a little bit back to go around the zygomatic arch. And then it comes down towards the chin. We have the hairline towards the top, eyebrow ridge, eye line, nose line, bottom of the nose, and the mouth line, neck, ears. Again, right? Very basics of the human head. What am I doing? And that is head study. Now let's move on to hands. So for hands, we have various poses of hands. So let's pick one. Ooh, I kind of like that one. A fist. Okay, let's do this open palm one. So an open palm hand. Let's take this down to 40%. Opacity. Put a new layer on top of that. And usually, B for the brushel, usually start off with the palm. And the palm can be a modified flat box, right? Where you have a slight side plane. You can't quite see the top, but it would be there. Looks like bread. You've got the thumb coming off of it. And the digits, or the phalanges. And it's broken up into 3 sections. Right, and hands are always cool, because there's just so many positions that they can take, which also makes them kind of tricky to draw, but with the right reference. And nowadays I take pictures with my phone and then send them to my computer. And so anytime I need reference, it's very easily to obtain. I don't know why I'm doing this on part, but anyways, so yes, that's the hand. You can also give this a little side plane. Just distinguish that. Hands are fun but tricky. Fun but tricky. And that is a hand. All right, so for basic bodies, here we have the very briefest of stick figure-like. It's like an in-between a stick figure and a slightly more developed than that. But we have a circle for that cranium of the skull, and a lot of wire frames and circles. So we have the egg shape for the rib cage, a box for the hips, circles for joints, a spade for hands, and then lines for the limbs. And a more developed version, circle for the skull, and then we extend that out to draw a basic head. Egg shape for the rib cage, box for the hips, circles for the joints, cylinders for the limbs. And then a more developed on top of that has, again, the circle for the head, and then it's much more developed than this. Still got that egg shape, some of the bare bones of a box. Those cylinders can be more defined, and circles to indicate where joints and areas of high movement would be. So that's the basis of what I'm doing, right? How I flesh out a human form. Anatomy study. So, okay, so let's run it down from the top down. I have the skeleton that I've mapped on some muscles. And these are the basic muscles that one can kind of sort of see on a well-defined figure, somebody who, say, works out a fair bit. You can see a lot of these muscles. So, we start at the top with the trapezius, which is a diamond shape that goes on the back, and the middle of the back, some of the shoulder. The deltoid, shoulder proper. The tricep on the back of your upper arm, and then coming towards the front, brachialis, which is this green one. The bicep, which is in front. So bicep, brachialis, tricep on the back. The brachioradialis comes from the outside of about the lower upper arm, and comes across and inside of your wrist, thereabouts. There are extensors and flexors in your forearm that help move your fingers and hands in various positions. We have the pectoralis, which is a large flat muscle of your chest muscle. You have the external obliques, which are like the love handle part. The latissimus dorsi is a lot of it on the back and it wraps around towards the front. The serratus anterior, which is a lightning bolt shape. I didn't really write those down, but they're there. We have the rectus abdominis, the upper and lower. The upper makes up the six-pack. And then about the navel, it comes down and connects into your groin area. We have the gracilis of the upper thigh on the inside. The adductor longus, which is just underneath that, coming from the inside towards the middle of your thigh. The sartorius, which is interesting because it comes from the hip, right? And it wraps from the outside, your outer hip, towards the inside and wraps into your knee area. That's pretty cool. The rectus femoris, which is in the middle of your thigh. There's the vastus lateralis. Lateralis is on the outside of your thigh. Gastrocnemius is your calf muscle on the inside of your calf. Also on the back, but it's not seen from this angle, mostly on the inside. Anterior tibialis, which is right next to your patellar tendon, which connects to your patella, which is your kneecap. Patellar tendon comes down from the patella to your ankle. Next to that, anterior tibialis. On the outside of your lower leg is the fibularis longus, also called the peroneus. And then the extensor digital longus is between the fibularis longus and the anterior tibialis. And that is a brief on muscles. Now let's map this to a mannequin. So this is what we did last time on Tuesday. But let's find another. Okay. So we have a basic mannequin, which for me is like a proto-human, not defined enough, but not super well defined. Like it has no face, but most of the structure is here. So we're going to map on a simple box in cylinder form. Simple, well, more complex shapes or whatnot. P for brush tool. So the circle, we have that egg shape for the rib cage. We have a box for the hips. And since his left leg is carrying most of the weight, that contrapposto, which is a weight shift, right? Giving you an S curve in the body. See that? So this part of the hip is slightly above this part. Contrapposto. So circles for joints. So shoulder, the deltoid. The thing I can't remember what it's called right now. Elbow. There we go. Wow. Your wrists, knees, ankles, and then we connect those with cylinders. And this is a basic, very basic shape of a person, right? Not too complex, but you can tell it's a person. So now let's map on some muscles. Okay, so we have the trapezius, which is your upper shoulders. connects to the clavicle, which comes across. This is your sternum, is the hard plate on the front of your rib cage, and your pectoralis comes across and hooks into your arm, right? Your pecs. The deltoid, pecs. We have the tricep on the back, the brachialis on the side, and the bicep in the front. So bicep, brachialis, tricep on the back. We have the brachioradialis coming from the outside of your lower upper arm down towards your wrist, inner wrist. Brachioradialis. There's extensors and flexors, like a lot of them in your forearm. There is the rectus abdominis, the six-pack, upper and lower. I usually put the dividing line is about the navel. What else do we have? The external obliques. The latissimus dorsi is part of the back and the side. The serratus anterior is like a thunderbolt. Cha-cha-cha-cha. There's about 3 of them. Love handles. External obliques. For your upper thigh, there is the gracilis. On the inside, we have the adductor longus under that. And then the sartoris coming from the hip and coming towards the inside of your inner knee. Comes and wraps in there. The rectus femoris is in the middle of your thigh. The vastus lateralis on the outside of your thigh. There's a vastus medialis underneath the rectus femoris. Vastus medialis is in the middle. We have the patella, which is your kneecap. The patellar tendon coming down towards your ankle. Patellar tendon. Your gastrocnemius, your calf muscle, seen mostly on the inner calf and the back, but it's not seen from this angle. The anterior tibialis is next to the patellar tendon towards the outside. You have the extensor digitorum longus on the lower part going towards your ankle. And then on the outside of your calf or lower leg is the fibularis longus. And that are the basic muscles of the human beings. So now let's look at some statuary. If I have some, yes. Okay, so here we have an image of David, very famous in ancient statuary. David who slayed Goliath with a rock and a sling. But this is a different part of the story where he's already cut off the giant's head. Gruesome indeed, but this is David is very popular in statues. So let's map first the simple shapes, right? Or simple, fairly complex though. Let's change this color to say a purple. There we go. Circle for the cranium, just about. Extend that out. The mandible. He's got the neck. Oh, I'm getting too involved. Anyway, so egg shape for the rib cage. clavicle, clavicle, sternum. We have a box for the hips. Again, contrapposto, because this is his dominant leg. He's putting most of his weight on this leg. So it moves this part up, and this is slightly slanted. And then circles for the joints. Shoulders, elbow, knees, wrist, and ankles. Can't quite see this ankle, but I think it's about here. And cylinders for the limbs. Again, this is simple construction of the human form. And if you take it away, you still see the pose. And now let's map the muscles onto this David. I always forget who the artist is. This is Andrea di Verrocchio. Verrocchio. Andrea del Verrocchio. Is it Verrocchio or Verrocchio? Italian names, man. So, with the muscles, well, circle for the head. Extend that down for an oval, the mandible, his neck, his shoulders are the trapezius. We have the egg shape for the rib cage. We have the clavicle, which comes across the sternum, your pectoralis, pectoralis, if I can say it right, comes across your rib cage, inserts into your upper arm. Your deltoid, the bicep is in front. The brachialis is on the side. The tricep is on the back. So bicep, brachialis, tricep. We have the brachioradialis, which you can see is pretty well. You can't quite see it here, but it goes from the outside towards the inside. There's extensors and flexors to move your digits and your hands and your hand and wrist. The latissimus dorsi and your external obliques, also called the love handles. You have the rectus abdominis, right, your six pack, and I usually define it as the lower, as being below the belly button, coming towards the groin. We have that box shape again, contrapposto. Muscles sartorius, serratus anterior, right? The lightning bolt. Looks almost like mimics the ribs because it attaches. We have the gracilis on the inside of the thigh, the adductor longus underneath that, coming towards the middle. The sartorius from the outside of your hip comes across towards the inside of your knee. The rectus femoris in the middle of your thigh, and the vastus lateralis on the outside of your thigh. Patella, kneecap, patellar tendon from the patella down to the ankle. On the inside of the calf is the gastrocnemius, or the calf muscle. On the outside, well, coming towards the outside, right after the patellar tendon, just outside of that is the anterior tibialis. Anterior tibialis. On the outside of the calf is the fibularis longus, also called the peroneus. The extensor digital longus is between the anterior tibialis and the fibularis longus. And that is mapping muscles onto statues. And again, statues are a great way to practice. because they are really well defined. They sit in 3D, so they cast with light, they cast shadows on certain muscle groups. Great way to study, I find. And is that it? I think we did it. That was day 3 of Artist Bootcamp. It's me getting myself back into shape, and I'm glad to have a workout partner. So let's look at the schedule. Today was the 22nd, Wednesday. Tomorrow is the 23rd. Sweet. And we'll go over the same set we did today. We'll do tomorrow, and then we'll do that again on Friday. And then we'll switch it up a little bit for next week. Take it up a notch. But thank you for joining me. I have been Trey. You can find my work at treyhodges.com. Take care, keep shining, power to the creators, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.